Hello, everyone. We are going to discuss a book today called The Invisible Boy. The Invisible Boy is about a boy named Brian who feels like he is invisible because his teachers don't notice him sometimes, and he doesn't seem to be invited to the get togethers with his classmates. So he feels like he is invisible. Invisible means that he cannot be seen. We are going to use the comprehension strategy connecting. When we connect with an information from a prior experience we have had and we relate the prior knowledge to the book. So this is The Invisible Boy by Trudy Ludwig, and it's illustrated by Patrice Barton. The Invisible Boy. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Miss Colati has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophia. Right here, this is Nathan. This is Brian. He is black and white. And here's Sophia and Nathan. They are all in color, and the rest of his classmates. This is what I think that it shows that Brian is invisible, because his teacher, Miss Carlotti, is not paying attention to him when he is behaving in line. Nathan has problems with what Miss Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophia take up all this space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Michael and JT take turns choosing children for their kickball teams. The best players get picked first, then the best friends of the best players, then friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left waiting and hoping. See? He doesn't look happy, does he? JT glances in Brian's direction, just as quickly looks away. We've got enough players for each team. He tells the others, let's play ball. In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool was awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, said Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everyone did except Brian. He wasn't invited. At choosing time, while the other children played board games and read, Brian sat at his table, doing what he loves to do best. He was drawing fire-breathing dragons, scaling buildings, space aliens locked in intergalactic battles, greedy pirates digging for treasure, and superheroes with the powers to make friends wherever they go. On Monday, Miss Colati introduces a new student, Justin, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him, and some of the children sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend, but they haven't quite made their minds yet. And here you see that Brian has become invisible. He's getting a little color to his picture. And I think he is making himself visible because he's trying to become a friend with Justin. So Justin doesn't feel the same way as Brian. He doesn't want him to feel invisible. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. What's that? Asked Madison as she points to Justin's food. It's bulgogi. But what? Bulgogi, it's a Korean barbecue beef. My grandmother made it for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some? There's no way I eat bulgogi. And the children laughed, all of them except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. Justin, I think the bulgogi looks good. Brian. And now, do you think that it meant a lot to Justin that Brian drew him this picture in here? This made him feel very good because you can see on the page we're about to read that Justin ends up talking to Brian the next day at morning recess. At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing. You're Brian, right? Yeah, thanks for the note. Hey, Justin, Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. You're up next. Sorry, I gotta go, says Justin. But by the way, that's a really cool drawing, he adds before taking off. Back in the class, Miss Colati asked children to team up with 2s or 3s for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm ready with Justin, says Emilio. Find someone else. Brian looks to the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Miss Colati, we can have up to 3 people in our group. We only have 2. Come on, Emilio, let's work with us. Okay, I guess. Brian becomes part of their group. Miss Carlotti gives the class instructions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in the photographs. We use your imagination and have fun. Woo, cool, says Emilio. What kind of people do you think live in the houses like that? I don't know, but I bet Brian can draw them to go with our story, says Justin. Brian smiles and he takes out his lucky pen. See, he's in color. They're making their project with the people. They're cutting and pasting. And then it says, the cricket story remade up on the spot. It's lunchtime again. Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. Brian! He hears someone shout, hey, Brian, over here. He turns and sees Justin waving at him. Emilio nods at Brian, so he makes room for him at the table. Cookie? Thanks. Maybe, just maybe, Brian is not as invisible after all. The end. Thank you. I hope y'all liked the book.